The Rhino Vehicle. The Rhino Vehicle is one of the strangest things ever invented and then abandoned. It was allegedly crafted by a Greek-American inventor who had already amassed a fortune by coming up with other random and clever inventions. The Rhino was an amphibious vehicle designed with the intention of patrolling and defending the roadless wastelands of both Alaska and Canada. The vehicle weighed 5 tons, it was 4-wheel drive, and it could reach speeds of up to 45 miles per hour. The most impressive feature of the Rhino was its collection of wheels. Each wheel weighed 1,500 pounds, and their spherical shape gave the vehicle superior all-terrain capabilities. Could you imagine rolling around on a set of 4 globe-shaped tires? That would be absolutely breathtaking. You would have the coolest car in town. Unfortunately, only one prototype was ever built. The United States military did not wish to purchase any Rhinos, mostly because the wheels were easily punctured by gunfire and the vehicle would sink. For that reason, no more of these bizarre Rhino machines were ever built, and the entire idea was abandoned. Nobody has any idea where that prototype is, but it's safe to say it's probably rusting away in the garage of the inventor. What's the wildest car you've ever driven? Have you ever gotten behind the wheel of a military Humvee? Or perhaps just a super expensive luxury car? Or did you ever try out a performance race car? Tell me about your best and craziest driving experiences in the comments below. But after you do, remember to subscribe to Talltanic if you haven't already for more awesome videos just like this one. Russian military vehicle in the swamp. It's been said that if you dig deep enough through the Russian wilderness, you will stumble upon any number of crazy Soviet machines, even leftover engines from space launches. That's exactly how one man on an ATV stumbled upon a bizarre 8-wheeled vehicle in the middle of the Russian forest. What was once a muddy swamp had become exceptionally dry one season, and this enabled the man to take his ATV deeper than he usually would while out riding. After crossing a boundary of rusted barbed wire, the unnamed man came upon what appeared to be an abandoned military vehicle from the Cold War. But not just one vehicle, there were actually quite a few of them. The vehicles he found appeared to have been heavy trucks likely used by the Soviet army in transporting ballistic missiles. It's unclear why the vehicles were abandoned and left in the middle of a swamp, but it's safe to say that nobody is going out there to fetch them anytime soon. They're already rusted beyond repair and are of no more use to anyone, but their history must be impressive. I wonder if they were used as part of a missile defense system, or if they were part of military exercises anticipating a possible World War III. The possibilities are endless, and only the Russian military archives have the true answer. For the local who discovered the vehicles, it wasn't even that surprising. It was just another day in the vast and mostly empty Russian wilderness. Plane on tanks. Somewhere in Afghanistan, an airplane was discovered sitting on a pair of tanks. This is a totally bizarre image, and it was apparently taken at the USSR Red Army graveyard east of Kabul. It's unclear how exactly the airplane came to be sitting on the tanks, nor how on earth anyone got it on top of them, but it's clearly been there for a while. The airplane is littered with graffiti, someone wrote "Live Free or Die" on the tail, and it does not look like it's in any condition to fly. What in the world is it doing here? It's hard to tell what type of airplane it is, though it looks like an old Cold War era transport plane. As for the tanks, it's basically impossible to identify them. Only their tracks are visible beneath the airplane, making you wonder if the tops are buried inside the belly of the great aerial beast, or if the treads are somehow part of the airplane. This must be some type of relic from a long time ago sitting outside a US military base. It's so strange though. School bus in lava. Hawaii is full of some really amazing sights. They have amazing oceans, great surfing, and some pretty outstanding volcanoes. After all, the islands of Hawaii are basically made from volcanic rock, but you might be surprised to find a school bus completely trapped inside a lava field. It's one of the most bizarre abandoned vehicles you'll ever see. It was likely buried in a 1988 lava flow, which occurred after Hawaii's Kilauea volcano began erupting in 1983 and did not stop for 30 years. The lava reached all the way to the Hawaii Volcanoes National Park's Visitor Center, which was set aflame by molten lava in June of 1989. It would have been a little before this that the bus in the photographs was engulfed by that same lava flow, just as it was burning in the community of Kalapana. Nobody knows who abandoned the bus or why it wasn't driven to safety, but it now stands as a grim reminder of just how quickly and deadly the volcanoes of Hawaii can become, and how rapidly they can destroy entire communities. Soviet jet train. The Soviet jet train is one of the coolest pieces of abandoned technology in the world. It was developed during the space race between the United States and the Soviet Union. In the 1960s, everyone wanted to make locomotives faster and cheaper. One of the more insane ideas was to add jet engines to a train to propel it forward at blinding speeds that a gas turbine or coal-powered train just could not match. The first jet train developed by the Soviet Union was intended to speed up the daily commute from between Omsk and Tomsk, a brisk distance of only 550 miles. In 1970, Russian scientists got to work. A pair of turbojet engines were added to the front of a train, and in 1971, the first test was conducted. Instead of going 225 miles per hour like they wanted, the train only went 116 miles per hour, 185 kilometers an hour. Even after pushing the engine to its limits, the very max that they ever reached was 155 miles per hour, 250 kilometers an hour. It was a total disaster. The train was also too loud and too costly, and most people were afraid to travel at such incredible speeds. The project was discontinued and the train was abandoned. It's currently sitting in the weeds, rusting away somewhere in an unknown location in Russia. TSS Duke of Lancaster. The TSS Duke of Lancaster is a mysterious abandoned vessel with a colorful history. It served as a railway steamer, later as a car ferry, for a brief period as an arcade, and then it was ultimately abandoned. The vessel started life in 1955, and believe it or not, it looks a whole lot more interesting today than it did when it was brand new. It has been sitting beached on the shore of Wales since 1979, decaying and completely abandoned. On board, you can find coin-operated gaming machines that were moved onto the vessel in 2012 by a company hoping to turn the large boat into a game center for kids. But the reason it looks so great now is because graffiti artists got a hold of the boat and had their way with it. And rather than scrawling all over the boat with graffiti, they actually turned the Duke of Lancaster into a gorgeous mural with some very cool pieces. Instead of just being a boring rusted ship probably full of ghosts, it's now an impressive piece of artwork. Corsair plane wreck. The Corsair plane wreck is one of the most ghoulish and mysterious abandoned vehicles currently sitting beneath the surface of the ocean. The wreckage is located off the coast of Hawaii and is now serving as an artificial reef, but this was never intentional. It all began in 1948 when the World War II aircraft began to sputter during a routine mission. The engine started to fail, and so the pilot made a smooth water landing with the wheels up and the flaps extended. The plane wasn't even damaged during the crash. Unfortunately, the plane was not able to float. The pilot had no choice but to abandon his precious aircraft and watch it sink to the bottom of the ocean. The wreckage is now sitting 115 feet, 35 meters below the surface in an area with strong currents and a lot of sea life. The only way for divers to reach the craft is by descending using an anchor line and then swimming at least 30 feet, 9 meters to the spot of the wreckage. While the story of the airplane's abandonment is not that phenomenal, the shape of the plane now is quite remarkable. If you have the chance to visit it off the coast of Hawaii, it would make for an incredible vacation. Reeves OctoAuto. Some vehicles are abandoned because of unfortunate situations, others are abandoned because they were horrible ideas. The Reeves OctoAuto falls into the category of the latter. This unusual vehicle was crafted by a man named Milton Reeves after taking a 1910 Overland and adding a new axle to each end. He thereby gave the vehicle 8 wheels instead of 4. Reeves claimed that all those extra wheels would make the vehicle safer and more durable. Unfortunately, absolutely nobody was interested in purchasing the vehicle. Even after Reeves removed 2 of the wheels to make the car shorter and renamed it the Sexto-Auto, people still had no interest. This is unfortunate because Reeves apparently had even more plans to make even more vehicles with even more wheels, but nobody wanted anything to do with his weird contraptions. The idea, along with all the prototypes, were abandoned and never seen from again. The only thing Reeves went on to invent that we still use today is the exhaust muffler, so at least one of his inventions turned out to be useful in the end. The Waterman Aerobio. The Waterman Aerobio was the very first true flying car crafted by an American citizen. The vehicle had no tail, it only had one engine, and it was designed to be a car that drove in the clouds. The first prototype was built in the 1930s, but it took a few different tries before Waldo Waterman finally got it right. In 1935, the W4 was built. It was a model plane designed by Waterman himself that looked like a car but only worked in the sky. After his success, Waterman went on to develop a drivable road version. He made a new aerobio dubbed the W5 that could be driven on any ordinary road while also being able to tackle the sky. The wings and propeller could be detached quickly and then reassembled so that the car could go from road to air in just a few minutes. Unfortunately, the idea never really took off. Even after successful test drives and several prototypes, including newer versions that worked even better, nobody wanted to order any of Waterman's flying cars, and they were all abandoned or destroyed. It's unclear whether some outside entity was trying to stifle the development of flying cars, or if people in the 1930s simply were not ready for them. But the real question is, if a flying car could be developed, tested, and driven in the 1930s, why couldn't it happen right now? The Murmansk. The Murmansk is one of the most notable abandoned wrecks in Europe. The Murmansk is a Russian cruiser crafted in 1955. It was also one of the latest gun cruisers to be decommissioned back in 1987. The vessel was then sold in 1994 to India to be scrapped, but that's when everything went wrong. The Murmansk wasn't exactly abandoned, it was lost. The ship somehow ended up running aground off the coast of a small Norwegian village instead of touching down in India. Then instead of rescuing the ship, which at the time had been in perfect condition, it was simply left to pollute the ocean and become an eyesore for the local Norwegians. There were some talks about trying to tow the ship away, but it eventually rusted to such a point where it was unable to be moved. It took 20 years for any kind of action to be taken to dismantle and get rid of this abandoned vessel. As of 2013, the abandoned Murmansk battleship that had mysteriously washed up in Norway was finally taken apart and destroyed. If you could choose one of these vehicles to be delivered straight to your driveway, which would you prefer, and would you even have room for it? Let me know how you feel in the comments, and thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and see you again soon for more amazing content.